Yeah, good morning. This is Bang Bang Ray Hill. A long time ago, about what, a year ago, I done an interview with Marvin Herbert and Christian from KON TV. Um, yeah, do you know what? Let's just start a little bit of that one. But before I even get into the interview about it, what it was about and and how it went, um, I'd like to apologise. I mean, people are going to go to me, "Ah, you're mad doing that." But listen, I'd like to apologise to Marvin Herbert, yeah? I say all people go, yeah, you always apologising this, you always apologising that. But yes, and I've just looked at a couple of interviews I've done with Marvin, and there was really, really good interviews, yeah? He brought me forward. I'm sorry for what I've said and sorry for what I've done, yeah? Uh, Other people should sort their problems out. They shouldn't throw their problems on me, yeah? For me to sort them out with Marvin. Marvin's all right, mate. Marvin's, I've looked at a few of his podcasts he's done recently, and he's all about the kids. I've always said he's always about the kids. He wants to help the kids out. He's trying to get kids jobs. He's trying to do this for kids, that for kids. He's trying to get all the knife crime out of it. We're all trying to do that, you know. I mean, knife crime is just a coward's way out. You know what I mean? The only thing about knife crime is that it's not an epidemic. It's something that's happened since they've opened the borders for people to come over this country. There's always been knife crime in this country, but it's not been as bad as what it is now because they've opened the borders. People from other countries are coming over here. They're in war zone countries. They're coming over here thinking that knives and guns is just a normal thing here, and they're coming and they're doing it. They're stabbing people, shooting people, and it's a normality for them, and it's the government's fault that this is happening, and it's never going to change. It's never going to change until the government realise that them people shouldn't be in this country. They should be sent back or put into a prison where they can be looked at. Yeah, it's something like that. You know, no one likes to see people go in prison, but no one likes to see people getting stabbed to death, and no one likes to see people getting shot. I mean, things are going a bit crazy now. With all the cities getting police ain't got no authority whatsoever. Again, listen, I don't like the police. I mean, I'm against the police, 100%. You know, I've always had fights with the police, but there's a listen. When you get to a certain age, I think you change a bit. Anyway, let's forget about all that. It's about Marvin. I'd like to apologise to Marvin and say I'm really, really sorry. But the first interview we done, Marvin, it was I just come out of prison, and Marvin and KO TV put me on the interview, and the interview started off about me as a child, me being sexually abused as a kid, and what I've gone through, and then they wanted to go through my sentences, what I'd done, and they was talking about me coming out of prison and me starting my street fights, my unlicensed fighting. And it started from there, you know, and it went something like this, yeah. I come out of prison. Moved to a place called Lewisham. Met a guy called Jimmy Tibbet, but didn't meet Jimmy Tibbet straight away. I went down a pub and I met some people: Terry Coombs, Terry Sharp, Eddie Richardson, and Charlie Richardson, and people like that. Yeah, and I got into the unlicensed fighting for a guy called Jimmy Tibbet, that I met down at Thomas and Beckett years ago. Jimmy Tibbet was training some people. I was in the Beckett. I was talking to Jimmy Tibbet. Jimmy Tibbet lived in Hayes in Kent. He's a very, very dangerous, hard man that was in a Guinness Book of Records for knocking people out with right hooks and left hooks. You know, he's consistent banger. If he hit you on the chin like Mike Tyson, he would knock you out. Yeah, and a very, very hard man, very dangerous man, and a gangster. He used to be wrapped around people like Billy Haywood, not Billy, Harry and Billy Haywood. I mean, I met Billy Haywood in Maidstone prison, but I also met Billy Haywood when I come out of Maidstone, and I met Bill in a place called the Harp and Herring in Deptford, I think it was Deptford or Catford, with Jimmy Tibbet. And me and Jimmy, I got into Harry Hayward. Nice geezer, mate. Nice geezer. Billy Hayward, lovely guy. Loved Bill. Me and Bill, as I say, sorry, I might have said Harry and said it's Bill. Me and Bill was in Mason prison. Come out and met Bill with Jimmy Tibbet. Jimmy Tibbet, nice guy, mate. We went in there talking about fighting and have they got anything that I can do, anything like enforcer work, go and collect money for them. And I did. I went out and I went out with Jimmy to do a bit of enforcer work, getting money for Billy Hayward. Billy Hayward, nice geezer, mate. I really liked him. He had, as I say, they had the pub called the Harp and Herring that belonged to Harry Hayward, and Harry Hayward had a ring, had a cell downstairs in his pub, and any time he felt like doing a bit of villainy, he'd go downstairs. He'd go downstairs in the cell, get his wife, kids to bang him up, and then he'd sit down there and think, is it worth it? Is this worth it? You know what I mean? Is this? You see, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different when you're in prison, yeah? When you're in prison, you're not out on the street. So in prison, that is your life being banged up. But if you're out in the street and all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, you're put in a cell and that cell door is shut, it's different, completely different. But if you're in prison and that's your life 24/7, it can't be no different. Door shut. But if you're out on the street and you're put in a cell and the door shut, then you realise, this is not for me, mate. This is prison. This ain't for me. And this is what Harry did. Harry Hayward done and Bill done. And I went down there because, I've done a lot of bird anyway. I went down there and they shut the door, and straight away you feel it. You think, I couldn't go through this again. I couldn't go through this again. This would actually kill me, but obviously I did, but bigger time. Anyway, when I was with Bill and Harry in the pub with Jimmy Tibbet, they was telling me about the shooting and this, that, and the other, and the Smiths and all that when they shot up the pub, shot up the club, and Jimmy Tibbet had the gun and this, that, and the other, and all that. It was telling me big stories, proper gangster stories. Stories that maybe later on I'll be telling you about, the things that Harry Hayward and Billy Hayward had done in their life, And they was always nicking lorry loads of cigarettes, and they was dishing out cigarettes from the back of a lorry. From the back of a lorry, they was dishing it out. In them days, it was one of the things you could do. The police were looked after, give them a backhander, and you could just sell fags from the back of a lorry. That's how it was in them days, yeah. Obviously, so in the 70s and 80s, it was a different kettle of fish completely, yeah. But it all changed. But me and Jim, Jimmy, I met Eddie Richardson down the pub, but not. I was talking to Eddie. I knew who he was. That name fit the life out of me really. When I talked to him in the pub down the bottom of the road, this got two Rays owned it. They owned the pub, two Rays. They was, I think they was both gay. They didn't sound gay, but they must have, they lived together, so it was a bit dodgy, yeah. Anyway, so I met Eddie Richardson in that pub with Terry Coombs, Terry Sharp, and Jimmy Tibbet, and a few others. A guy called George, talk like that, big scar down his face. Proper gangsters, yeah. And as you say, I'm talking to Eddie, and to be in prison, and all of a sudden, the books that you read and the people you talk about, you're actually talking face to face to that person, and it's just exciting for you. You know what I mean? It's just so exciting. You look at it, and Eddie at that time was a big, powerful, dangerous man. Yeah, I looked at, crikey, I'm on about this is like 79, you know what I mean, 80, and a big, powerful man, and you're talking to a proper gangster, and Jimmy Tibbet and Terry Coombs, Terry Sharp, proper gangsters, and I'm just not a gangster, but I've been in and out of prison, I'm just learning things, yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm talking to Eddie, and he's saying to me, you know, where you from? I told him I've just come out of prison. This, that, and the other. Eddie gave me a few pennies. Terry Coons give me a few pennies. Sharpie and Big George with a scarf down his face. He more or less wanted to take my money, but he giving me it anyway. Eddie Richardson told me, he said, listen, you're not far from the Thomas and Beckett. I don't know why I don't go down to Beckett in the morning, every morning. He said, what are you doing now? I said, I live just down the road, Hilly Farm. What's it called? My Brookbank Road in Lewisham. And it was up the top was a place called Hilly Fields, big, massive old hills. And I used to run around there, big swimming pool at the top. I used to run around there. I said, look, I run like maybe 10 mile a day, you know, with a pack on my back. I'll go over Blackheath, all around there, Deptford, Catford, Woolwich, all round. I run everywhere, yeah. He said, so you're very fit? I said, yeah, I'm really, really fit. He said, you're a big lump, aren't you? I said, yeah, you know, I was training in prison, lifting big weights and all that. He said, you know, are you interested in unlicensed fighting? I said, yeah, I'm very interested. He said, look, a friend of mine, Jimmy Tibbet, he goes down to Beckett. Go down to Beckett tomorrow morning and have a look, yeah? So I went down to Beckett and there's this guy with a suit, flat nose, training. Also, there's another guy in there by the name of Steve Riches. Steve Riches, his name was Colombo. Colombo, good fighter. And he's going into one floor workout, pad workout, ball. He's so fit, mate, it's unbelievable. And he's talking to Jimmy. Jimmy came over to me. He said, listen, where'd you come from? I said, Lewisham. You know, I started talking to him about Eddie Rich. He said, I said, you're the person that Eddie told me about. He said, you're interested in unlicensed fighting? I said, yeah. He said, okay. We started training. He started training me on the bags and all this sparring around. Lloyd Wolfram, sparring with Steve Riches, Colombo, other people in the gym, sparring all the time. And I loved it. I loved the Beckett. I loved it, just the atmosphere and it being the Thomas and Beckett, you know, made it even better, you know. Every day training. And one day, Lloyd Wolfram, I'd sparred with him before. This time I got in the ring with him and I tried to take a liberty with Lloyd. And he came across with a right hand and a left hook and put me on my arse, yeah. I got up more or less straight away, which is not a good thing to do. Got up straight away and I had concussion bad, so bad that eventually when I did get ready and showered and everything like that, and I'd done all my work, floor work, everything, like I just felt really dizzy and trying to remember where I come from and who I am. And when I was talking, it was like funny things, yeah. And I went to Elephant Castle Station to go home. I then realised when I walked all the way to Elephant Castle Station that I don't live in Acton no more. I live in Lewisham. And furthermore to that, I've got a car outside Elephant Castle, the Thomas and Beckett. Why am I walking? So I got in my car. I found it quite hard to find out my way back to Brookbank Road in Lewisham, but Hilly Fields. I found it quite hard, but I eventually found it. Yeah, I was in a bad way. You know, Lloyd Wolford had given me a concussion. I was in a bad way, but I should have gone to the hospital. I should have gone to the doctors, but I didn't. Yeah, I shrugged it off myself. The way I shrugged it off is I kept drinking water, loads and loads of water. It seemed to sort things out for me. Taking paracetamols, you know, because I had a really bad headache, you know, ringing all the time and running all the time. And anyway, so a couple of days after that, back down to Beckett, back sparring, you know, I was back on back sparring. I mean, you had to get back to it. No point in just leaving it alone because of that ringing and dinging. So anyway, one day I'm sparring in there and come out, can't get out of the ring. Jimmy's talking to me. I've got in the bag. I'm in the bag about a few bits and pieces, left hooks, right crosses, and all them sorts of things. And I see this guy walk by me, 5'9", 5'10", maybe a little bit shorter than that. Muscular, big neck. I mean, I thought, fuck me, who's that guy? and he walked powerful. You know what I mean? He walked powerful, and he talked a nice. It was a not no that all that none of that. It was just nice talk. You know. And I see him in the ring with Colombo, and Colombo also done a lot of karate, and he was doing Roy Shaw backhanders and all that game, and you should see Roy getting the ump and all this shit with him. But Colombo could have it; he wouldn't have fall. He could take Roy's punches, and he wasn't a fall. Yeah. So Jimmy said to me, "Do you fancy a few rounds?" I didn't know he was Roy Shaw at that time. Yeah. He said, "Do you fancy a few rounds?" That guy. I said, "Who is he?" He says, "Roy Shaw." I went, "You're joking." Do you know, like to meet Eddie Richardson and then meet Roy Shaw, it was like a dream come true because me and Roy was like, you know, in strength and all that game. I used to do things like take the door handles off and pull the outlet and pull. I mean, even in Albany, I could whip it round and take the like this thing out, this tube, pull it out, yeah. And so they couldn't lock the door. I used to do that in Albany. But in places like Wandsworth and the Scrubs, I used to take the whole door off, especially Lewis. I was just snap the doors off, snap the door handles off, yeah. And anyway, so I've got big respect for Roy Shaw. So I'm with my brother Bobby at that time. My Bobby's just watching me fight, watching me train, and all of a sudden they said, "Do you want to fight Roy Shaw, spar with Roy Shaw?" I was up for it, you know what I mean? Yes, 100%. I'm up for it. Got in with Roy Shaw, flicking around. And the Beckett's only a tiny, tiny ring. Believe me, it's not that big yet. Flicking around with Roy, throwing a few punches. And then Roy, he's throwing punches from the floor. Because you haven't got a big lump. I'm big. And Roy's a big lump, but Roy's got to show a little bit of power. The person that he is, you know. I mean, I'm a young, powerful guy. He's a bit older than me, but he's a gangster and he's big respected, big name. So obviously, evidently, he's going to try and knock me out, yeah. And he's throwing punches from the floor, and these punches from the floor, they're of course they're hurting me. You know what I mean? They're really hurting me. But we've got 16-ounce gloves on, and he is hurting me, but he ain't the power to knock me out. Maybe if he hit me 10 times, he would knock me out or whatever. And you know, and Jimmy Tibbet jumped in and said, "That's enough. Right, you've had enough. I've had 2 or 3 rounds. That was enough. Come out." And that was it. Roy was still shadow boxing in there, and this, that, and the other. I was outside. I was out taking the gloves off and doing my floor workout, and I felt it was okay, comfortable. But my brother Bobby, being my younger brother, got a bit upset. He said, Ray, he said, "Oh, you all right?" I said, "Yeah, of course I'm right." He said, "Oh, I thought he was killing you, Dad. Killing you, Ray." He keeps saying Dad. Killing you, Ray, you know what I mean? I mean, no, it was all right. Anyway, about 4 days later, same thing, getting him in with Roy. This time I'm pulling Roy around, bump, bump, bump. You know, and about 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, I'm still sparring with Steve Richards, Colombo, a few other people in there. Lloyd Wolfram again, but I'm always being careful of Lloyd. Always got my hands up high with Lloyd because he can bang, yeah. So my hands are always up high with Lloyd. And anyway, I've sparred a few times with Lloyd, and now I'm beginning to get Lloyd's, and I'm hurting Lloyd. So he didn't really want to spar me too much. But Steve Ritchie, very powerful, very gutsy person. You can't hurt him, Colombo. You can hurt him, but he's very, very fucking hard. You know, Hungarian. I think it's Hungarian. Very powerful, very hard man. Yeah. And I see him spar with Roy a few other times. And about 3-4 weeks down the line, I was always, when I was down the Noble Art, I sparred with Bugner, I sparred with Billy Ed, and it's all coming back. It's all coming back. Everything's coming back, you know, and everything's coming back. And all of a sudden, I'm getting with Roy, and I'm banging Roy, and I'm really banging Roy, and it stops, you know, same thing when I stopped it with me, I stopped it with Roy. Then I thought perhaps I could beat Roy. I have said before I could beat Roy easy, but that's not that's a bit over the top, a bit far-fetched, yeah. When I look back on it, I was a little bit leery, and I didn't really mean what I said. Same with what I said about a few other people that I've talked about. I don't really mean what I say. I say things that I'm not thinking, and it's wrong, yeah. But anyway, me and Roy really don't spar much more after that. Then Jimmy Tibbet says, "Look, do you want us? We've got a fight down at the Rainbow Theatre. The Rainbow, I think it's the Rainbow, the Mayfair, Tottenham. I think anyway." So, "Do you fancy it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "So who am I fighting?" He said, "We think you're fighting a guy called Brian Hall, a good fighter, ex-pro, been on the." He said, "Do you fancy it?" I said, "Yeah." But, went down there and see a few fights. See Guy Cliff Fields, Red Rock, to see quite a few guys there that are well-known fighters and well-known people got a lot of respect for. Yeah. See, what's it called? Frankie Warren and a guy called Vic Andretti. I know him now, but I didn't know him at that time. Yeah. And get in with Brian Hall. I do 8 rounds. I'm on a video called Box On. I'm 9 minutes 6 seconds into the video. You see me. I've got black shorts on with a red stripe down them. Me and Brian Hall. I like Brian. I had lots of hair then, by the way. You see me by the tattoos and everything. But anyway, I only lasted about 3 minutes. It's only a quick thing. Anyway, so I got in with Brian Hall, good pro, ex-pro, gets in with him, 8 rounds. I thought I won, you know what I mean? Because his face is a terrible state after I finish it. You see his face on Box On. And I thought I won. But it was a draw. You can't complain. It's a draw, you know. You're still going to get more or less the same money. So it's a draw. So I jump out of the ring. Also, as I jump out of the ring, I bump into this guy. Black hair, black roll neck jumper, black trousers, black shoes. Jump out. He went, "I'd have done him. I'd have knocked him out in the first round." He said, "You should have knocked him out." I said, "Who the fuck are you?" He said, "My name's Lenny McLean." I knew who Lenny McLean was. I've heard about Lenny McLean, who he was, But at that time, Lenny wasn't that how can I say, big. He wasn't that well known. He was known, but he wasn't over the top. Everyone, "Oh, Lenny McLean," It was, he was 15, 16, 17 stone, and that's about it. I'm big. And he wasn't anybody like Lenny when he was really big, lock, stock, two, smoke barrel when he was massive, 23, 24 stone and all that. When he was to fight, big, powerful, big and powerful when he got on the roids and, and all that, yeah. But I jumped out and we had a few words, and I said to him, "Look," I said, I don't know who you are, this, that and the other. You're telling me Lenny McLean, who the fuck's Lenny McLean? And then he started, and "Do you want this and all that crap?" And I said, "Listen, if you want to fight with me, mate, see that man there, Jimmy Tibbet, and talk to him, and he'll arrange it." Went back to the changing room. All of a sudden, Lenny comes in, starts shouting him out about, as he did. I thought it was a little bit out of my league, as far as where I was. Not Lenny, but as far as I was, didn't know anybody but Jimmy Tibbet. So I kept a low profile, didn't say too much. What I had to say when I jumped out of the ring, I said. His manager was Frankie Warren, because Frankie Warren was Lenny McLean's cousin. Relations, yeah? And there was Vic Andretti. Vic Andretti had the pub called The Ring. He was a good trainer, trained Nigel Benn, and he's a good trainer, Vic Andretti. Anyway, but this is your early years. So then I decide, all right, Jim, I'm going I'm in Lewisham. I'm training very hard. I'm always in the Beckett with Jimmy Tibbet. I'm always working hard, training. I'm doing lots of other work with Jimmy Tibbet, going to pubs, seeing people. Money's being like an enforcer, a debt collector, driving around with Jimmy Tibbet, debt collecting money. Later on, it was with Cliff Fields as well. Yeah, but at that time, me and Jimmy was driving around getting a few debts for Billy Hayward, Harry Hayward, Terry Sharp, Terry Coombs, and Eddie Richardson, going around seeing people and getting debts. Yeah, and then one day, Jimmy said to me, "Listen, we're going to take a ride of a place called Lingfield." I said, "What are we going over there for?" He says, "We've got to see a guy called Johnny Crittenden." He said, "I know Johnny Crittenden years, Ray. Johnny Crittenden's an old face. He's a traveller, bikey, and he's the governor. He's the number one man of all the travellers. He is the Don, yeah?" I went, "Crikey." So I expected it to be in caravans, you know what I mean? Anyway, went down there, got down to Lingfield, all big horses around there, not far from Lingfield racetrack. Down this little road, dirt track road, for about half a mile. Got down the bottom, down the right, one house, and he got this big fucking house, big massive house with a caravan outside, round the corner. I thought he lives in there. Go to the house, knocked on the door. It's Jim. It's him, isn't it? It's fucking the song that May's got. It's first thing in the morning. There he goes. Anyway, so knock on the door. He opens the door. Yeah. So I'm going, oh my God. So anyway, he goes, "All right, boy. How you going? Want a cup of tea? Come in, boy. Come in, boy." That's how he talks. I thought, fucking hell. He's got a dodgy eye, one eye, yeah. Goes in there, sitting down. He starts talking about the place he's got is massive. It's massive. I'm with Jimmy. Jimmy's, as I say, introduced me to him. And then we get up. I know he just said, "Can I use the toilet?" He said, "Yeah, all right." I goes into this room, going through. As I walk in there, massive swimming pool, inside swimming pool, but it's empty. All I could see is a little bit of water in the bottom, green water. It's green, stinks in there, yeah. And anyway, I shut the door, just had a quick look around, shut the door, went to the toilet, come out. I said, "Look, what's up? Why don't you use the pool?" He said, "Oh, it's a big story. You know, Johnny Critters is a big story." He said, "You know, come and have a walk around, have a chat." So I went outside, and he took me to a place where the kennels used to keep greyhounds, yeah? Used to race greyhounds. And this is where they used to torture people in these what's it called? Kennels with the dogs. You walk in there and you get the atmosphere. When people start saying this is where we torture people, and Jimmy Tibbet told me this is where Johnny Crittenden and that little firm used to torture people. Do you know what I mean? You think, God, and the atmosphere, as you walk in it, you can feel it, you know, you're just looking around and you can, in your own vision, you're thinking, you can imagine what they should do to people, you know what I mean? And he said they used to doing with batteries, you know, and what's that and the other. And you think, oh, bloody hell. And we walked a little bit further and there's a massive, big stadium. I'm on about a stadium, half, not a big round one, but half a stadium, yeah. And it's a dog track. It's so massive. He must have bought it from White City Dog Track or something like that when they bought it down. It's massive, you know, proper stadium. And used to have dog races in there, dog track races in there. All that lot used to go. Eddie Richardson, Charlie, all that lot used to go. It'd be packed. And because of his daughter dying, what happened? His little niece or something like that. He let play out on the dog around the tracks and all that. And on the outside of the tracks, on the outside of it, there's water. There's about 2 foot gap, and there's water that runs around it. Yeah, the water's about not very deep. An inch, maybe a bit less than that. Running fresh water all the time, you know. And she tripped up and she fell in it, but she fell face down into the water and she was unable to get out of it. Yeah, and she died. She drowned. They couldn't find her. She went round and found her in the drowned. Johnny Critterton, it killed him, nearly killed him. I think that's what actually killed him in the end, you know what I mean? You know, but he died later on, about 8, 9 years later, 10 years later. But I mean, that's what happens. I think that a shock like that must have done him in, yeah? And that is why he's got no water in the swimming pool. He says he has his other kids come round. He said there's a little bit of water in the bottom, just found by the water sucks out. He couldn't drown in it. It's a little tiny bit of water in there, but it's green. It stinks. Yeah? He said, I don't allow my kids, my nieces, nephews, whatever, grandchildren, whatever. I don't allow them to get in there. I go anywhere where there's water. And he said, that's why I don't use a dog track no more. It's all filled in. Everything's done. It's all derelict. It's a shame. You look at it and you think, oh, what? You try to imagine what went on there maybe 10 years prior to that, yeah? And it was like, it must have been crazy gangster place where they all still come. You know, Charlie Vicevich, maybe Billy Blundell, Eddie Blundell, all them sort of people come, big gangster thing, all the travellers, everything, yeah? You can imagine what it's like, can't you? All dealing and wheeling and dealing, you know, when you're looking at it and you try to visualise it in your head, what it was like, you know, what sort of place was it then, you know what I mean? What happened in there? What's the bets and who's and did more likely done more damage with other people carving them up, cutting them up, and torturing them in there, and having bets about it, and getting dogs to chase people to pieces, them sort of things. You know what I mean? And you're walking around with Johnny Critterton and Terry and Jimmy Tibbet, and you're thinking to myself, I mean, what went on around here, mate? You know, you're trying to look at it, yeah, what went on there, yeah? And, you know, you've got Johnny Critton talking, oh, yeah, no, boy, and all that, trying to talk to you. And he's slurring as he's talking. Not I slurring myself, yeah, but he was really slurring, you know. Yeah, you know what I mean, boy, boy. And you can see that he's hurting as he's walking around telling you, yeah. And then go back to the house, and the house is massive, mate. I mean, Johnny Critterton, he's king of the travellers. He's king. He's top man, yeah. Absolutely multed up. He owns more caravan sites, big sites than anybody you could ever mention, yeah. Multed up. He bought everything at the right time in Brighton, Hove, all around them areas, all around. He got big places like everywhere. The guy's minted. And so he's talking to me, and then he's got his other son, John, in a caravan. Obviously, John becomes a bit of a naughty kid, does naughty things, yeah. But anyway, let's not get into that. It's not about the story, yeah. But anyway, that Johnny Critterton's got me down with Jim. He said, look, the other day, my boy had 3 of those jet skis, yeah, and he's sold them, but he sold them to some travelling boys. They're over Hove Way, and they haven't returned the jet skis, even the money, yeah. He said, and I want the jet skis back. He said, I don't want the money no more. I just want the jet skis back. Yeah, can you go and get it from Jim? So Jim's gone, well, you know, he gives Jim a right few bob. Jim give me a few bob. We went back to Lewisham, around there, got a few people, 4 or 5 of us went back to the site, and it wound up being, it kicked off, yeah? It kicked off really bad. I had a fight with one of the guys, and anyway, we eventually got it all back, but it kicked off really bad. Everyone was loggerheads. It looked like there's a lot more trouble than there was. There was all fucking things flying around and everything, but it eventually got paid, or the things got back anyway. So now Johnny Critterton is on me, isn't he? Anyway, so I pull away with Jim and go, you know, I'm flying around with Jimmy Tibbet. I'm having maybe, 2, 3 fights a week, sometimes a month. I did say when I was talking to KON TV and my mucker, and it is like saying to them, it was like I was having 2 fights a week, but I was having 2 fights a month. I mean, a month, yeah. It was a bit 2 fights a month, sometimes 3 fights a week. It all depends, yeah. It all depends. And, you know, it was a good interview. I mean, a proper interview, yeah. Anyway, so Marvin is, when I go back and looked at it, he's proper nice guy, man. He proper talks to me like a gentleman. He's like getting things out of me that I'd forgot about, you know what I mean? And that's why I apologise to Marvin now, because I thought Marvin was excellent the way he gave me that interview with KONTV. I thought it was really good, you know, such a good interview. And if you go back in it and look at it, you think, why did I run him down? Why have I listened to other people and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and he got me to run him down rather than themselves? You know, I think it's a bit immature, but now that's why I'm apologising to him now, Marvin. Anyway, so we keep Marvin talking about people. Ray, who's the most dangerous person that you've ever met in prison? I said, well, as far as danger is concerned, Vicky Dart was a dangerous guy. Vicky Dart. I mean, I used to work out, not with Vicky, but around him, yeah? I used to see Vicky do sit-ups with 40 kilos behind his head and do ridiculous sit-ups and do other things, and always doing his kickboxing, karate and all that game. And when you sometimes talk to Vicky Dart about certain things that he's done, he becomes a dangerous person. He becomes quite dangerous when you listen to the stories. You think, oh, this geezer's an handful. He's a dangerous man. Not that you couldn't have a row with a geezer, but he's dangerous. Vicky Dart, he's a sort of person that go around the corner, dart around the corner, and come back and blow your fucking head off. You know, he's a dangerous man. I've got big respect to Vicky Dart. You know, the way the stories he told. You know, and his stories are true stories and brilliant stories. And you know, I was in Masonry with Vicky. And everybody who's anybody walks about together. You know what I mean? They walk about listening to each other's stories, yeah? So I walked around with Vic and a few other people and Billy Blundell and all that, because I think Billy Blundell and Vicky Dart was in the same wing. I think it was Medway. I'm sure it was. I'm not quite sure. I think it was Medway. I'm sure it was, yeah. And anyway, so when I'm talking to Marvin about a dangerous person. Also, then I said, I don't know what I said. Billy Blundell. I said Billy Blundell. When being in Maidstone with Bill and talking to Bill, Billy Blundell, I should imagine, was one of the most feared men at that time, yeah? At that time. He could have a right fight. I remember him in the gym. I remember him in the gym with a guy called Ricky Curley. Ricky Curley. I mean, people out there must know Ricky Curley. Very quiet guy. One of them guys, maybe not too many people know him, but because of that, he's a very dangerous man. Ricky Curley, yeah? And the people that do know him know what he is. He's a very dangerous and respected man, Ricky Curley, yeah? And he could have it. Me and Ricky Curley used to have toe-to-toe fights in there, in the gym, and we used to fight each other, but not on the face as such. Now and again you make a mistake, but on the shoulders. Ricky Curley used to smash my shoulders to pieces, black and blue, and my arms smashed them to pieces, but that's what we was learning. And I remember sparring with Ricky Curley one day. Well, I got the ump, he's really fucking hurt my shoulders so bad, my arms, that I'm in the clinch, and whoop, I threw a right hand up, which I should have done, to the chin, and then he knocked him out. I had to pick him up, you know what I mean? Not to pick him up. I was just sorry, Ricky. But dangerous, respected man, Ricky Curley. Billy Blundell, I see Bill, he used to go in the gym, Bill. He used to go on the Smith machines, you know, and he used to train, very short, very stocky guy, but could fast, mate, could move quick. he can move. He got him on the bag. He'd run around that bag, bang, 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 bang. He was really fast, Billy Blundell, and he could bang, and I got to give him a respect, because there again, Billy Blundell, big name, mate, big name. And I knew someone else I'm going to tell you about in a minute, but Billy Blundell, big name, dangerous man, really respected. Me, Ricky Curley, be walking around the yard. I was always with Ricky Curley most of the time. We see every day, meet Ricky. And Ricky also always had crisp trainers, nice trainers and all that. He was well looked after in there. Same as Bill. I never had that much in there, but I had someone give me a few things when I was in Waldwyn. But I'll tell you about that in a minute. And walking around with Bill, and you're thinking, wow, this is Billy Blundell. And then he's talking about the Essex boys. There wasn't really known then, the Essex boys, but he's talking about them as bits and pieces, telling me this, telling me that about them. And you got to remember later on, I get involved with a big mate of mine who's over that way. And anyway, so he's telling me about that lot, the Essex boys, and this and other things, and when you come out, come over to my place, And I go, yeah, I will, Bill. But you can take his address down and everything like that, because it's a friend, isn't it? Because he becomes a friend with me. He's in the gym. He's also doing a little bit of sparring with me, Bill. We're all doing the same things. We're all Ricky Curley, Billy Blundell, and then one day this big black guy comes in, about 15 stone, 16 stone, very long, very lanky, jabbing about on the bag, bump, bump, bump. Being me, I thought, yeah, this guy's got to go. This guy, and to show my little bit of authority, being Larry, and get in the ring with him, and he smashes me to pieces. He smashed me to bits. Really, he smashed me to bits, mate. He cut my mouth to pieces. My eyes were flat. My eyes was all shut. My nose was all bruised and buckled. My chin was all smashed. He made a good job with this kid. He made a good job with the black guy. He smashed me to bits. Fair play to him. I wish I knew his name now, mate. He must have been a good pro, because he knew what to do. I hit him once and it shook him up, yeah. But he hit me 30 times, 40 times before I could find one punch. The guy was a bit near the mark. Anyway, so have all that, and then one day I'm in my cell. This guy I know anyway, because I was at Albany with this guy. And anyway, so I'm in my cell. All of a sudden, Pat comes in. Pat Adams comes in. Oh, right. He says, mate, yeah, I'll take that. He gave me about 20 pair of socks and a pair of trainers. I went, leave off, Pat. He went, take that. He said, you're not getting no visits or nothing like that. I'm going to take that. Yes, that's for you, yeah. And he looked after me, Pat. I love Pat Adams, mate. And I was in order with Pat. Nice guy. And he'll always be a friend of mine, even though we fell out over something stupid, which is not down to me. It was down to other people. Anyway, so then I come, as I say, I'm come out, and listen, I met me and Jimmy and this, that, and the other, and I'm getting into my unlicensed fights and all that, and I just loved it. I loved that life, yeah. And then I used to have loads of fights down a club called Harvey Social Club, Woolwich. I've had quite a few down there. I've had about, 10, 15 fights down there, maybe even more. But I used to fight a lot of doormen, yeah. Jimmy used to take me into pubs, clubs, and all them sort of things. Wasn't really many wine bars, but going there and point me out to the bouncers nod his head, and I'll be fighting that bouncer the other next week. Big guys, big guys, And I loved it, I was just fighting all the time. I loved it, and And then one day I went down to Cat's Whiskers, Streatham. Now this is where we get mixed up. But I went down to Cat's Whiskers, Streatham, and Eddie Richardson said to me, "There's a guy here, good pro, fought John O'Gardner. I think John O'Gardner beat him. Do you fancy it?" And as an amateur, I used to go down Aberstock Hill, and John O'Gardner was in there, and I could see John O'Gardner could really have a fight. He could really handle himself, John. But John had plenty of promoters around him, plenty of people that would give him money, look after him, yeah. Anyway, so I said, yeah, you know, and for him to beat this guy, so this guy, I thought, yeah, this guy. Anyway, this guy was called Sid Paddock. Sid Paddock, very fit guy, fit. He got in the ring, you could see this guy was fit, mate. Crisp body, fit. We done 8 rounds, I think it was, or 8 or 10 rounds, I can't really remember. But I can remember me and him really marching on in there, and it became a draw. Me and Sid had a draw. And there was a guy outside the ring, about, 15 stone, 15 and a half stone, that said he was Sid's brother. His name was Kevin Paddock. And he said, listen, he said, how about me and you having a fight? I said, oh, yeah. I said, the arrangement is you into it, and we'll have one. But I can't remember if it was, he said, since I've spoke to Kevin Paddock, that it wasn't at the Cat's Whiskers, Streatham, it was in Guildford. But if he said it was in Guildford, it was in Guildford. So anyway, we got it arranged, me and Kevin Paddock, and I went to Guildford to fight Kevin. It was 8 rounds, and Kevin Paddock was a good middleweight. He fought Kevin Finnegan for the title, for the middleweight title. He was blind at heavyweight. He was about 16 stone, 17 stone. Got in there and taught me a lesson, Box could really bang. But on my own, with him, we had a good fight for 8 rounds. And I remember in about the 6th round, we got in the clinch, me and him, and he said to me, come on, let's mean you have it. He said, we're mucking about, let's mean you really fight. It's have it, come on. And I went, fuck this guy, it's me giving him my best, and he's telling me to fight. And we had a battle. We had a battle for 2 rounds. I remember that. We was punching each other to death. You know, he could bang, I could bang. He rocked me, I rocked him, but we didn't. No one over, and it was a draw. You know, we got a draw, and it was something that I liked to have a draw with him and a draw with his brother Sid. Sid died later over an accident, a motorbike accident, or was it by a bus or something like that? And he didn't die straight away, but he died later on, because you get a man like that who's been a fighter, who trains 24/7. Something like that happens. It takes all that spirit away from him, yeah. And it's not long before he passed away, yeah. And rest in peace, Sid Paddock. And Kevin, if you're listening to me, mate, I'm going to get in touch with you today, and we got to meet, yeah. We got to have a meet. I've been saying it for nearly a year that me and you, Kevin, have got to talk, and we got to have a talk that people know what it's about. When I was talking to Kevin, he told me that he fought Lenny McLean, and he said to me, Ray, he went, you would kill Lenny McLean. He said, tell me, mate. He said, I got in the ring with Lenny, he said, and I found Lenny to be easy. He said, a lot of people say, but he wasn't big then either. Don't forget, Lenny wasn't that big then. He was about 16, 17, 18, 17 stone, 750. He wasn't that big. He wasn't 23, 24 stone. He blew up to, yeah. And he wasn't more intimidating then, after, than what he was then at the time, yeah. So he said, you beat him easy way, this, that, and the other. So anyway, and he beat Lenny. He bashed Lenny right up all the counts. He fought Roy Shaw. He lost against Roy Shaw on points. He said, well, I see Roy Shaw fight Lenny. I didn't think Roy was that good. He said, and I took liberties, didn't train. He said, Roy Shaw knocked me all around the ring. He said, and I lost on points. He said, fair play. And fair play to Kevin Paddock to give Roy Shaw that respect as he did. He didn't give Lenny no respect, and that was the way it was, yeah. And after that, I was having fights all the time. Jimmy was getting me fights, as many fights as possible, because Jimmy was earning money and I was earning money. And all of a sudden one day, we went, I think I forget where we went now. Anyway, I'm really bad for names, but it come back to me later, but later it's too late. It's now, in it. And went to this pub and met this fighter, very, very famous fighter. And all of a sudden the guy came in called Cliff Fields. I see Cliff fight a few times. I shook his hand, Cliff, his hand in my own choice. And Jimmy's talking to Cliff. And Cliff's a very quiet, nice gentleman. And can't say he's how can I say, he's very powerful man to look at. Big, thick eyes, over the top. See that he's a good fighter. Had that face. He reminded me of Billy Williams, Bill the Bomb. The face, same sort of face as Henry Cooper, that sort of face. You know, it seems to be them fighters have that sort of face. Very, like it's chiseled, isn't it? Like a chiseled face. And he started to work with us, Cliff Fields. And Cliff Fields, to have him working with you was a privilege. And obviously I'm going to do more videos about Cliff later on. I want to do this for about an hour or so, yeah. But Cliff, proper man. When you was around with Cliff, he stood big, sharp, pointed, very powerful man. Didn't dress too smart, but he didn't have to really. He was. And me and Jimmy and sometimes another guy would come and we'd be doing enforcer work. But before that, me and Jimmy used to do all the clubs and the spills. Jimmy was an enforcer at all the spills, Woolies, Dullies, fucking Catford, Deptford, all around in Blackheath, all the spills. And there was a lot of spill gambling clubs in them days. It was all about gambling clubs. Everybody was into poker. Money, always past, going over the counter, going over the table. Loads of money. Loads and loads of money. Because that was a thing what was happening in Queensway. But anyway, that's another story one day, yeah? But you got to meet them people, Jimmy Tibbet, all that lot, Eddie Richardson, Charlie, all that lot, and it was all proper gangsters, people's names that I forgot, which I didn't forget, gangsters, and then the spills. And when I see Harry Hayward and Billy Hayward, Billy Hayward was a proper respected man, could have it, Bill, very dangerous gangster, Harry also. But sometimes, like everyone, need help, on certain things. And I remember Bill asking me and asking Jimmy Tibbet to go and collect some money for a guy in Catford, I think it was. I'm not quite sure. I'll get mixed up, Lewis from Deptford, Catford. I'll get mixed up with the names, yeah? Anyway, we went to this place and it was only me and Jimmy. Walked up these couple of flights of stairs and this guy's, I'm not quite sure it was the Frenchies, something like that. I can't remember who it was now. Walked up there and these guys owed Billy Hayward about 20 grand, 15, 20 grand. Over poker. And one of these people playing for big money, mate. And Jimmy wants the money. Billy Hayward wants to go in and shoot him, Bill. So Jimmy's going, hold up, let me go in there and other people. I can talk to them and get your money for you. Walked in there, got right Larry with Jim. Jim's gone crash, hit one, knocked him spark out. The brother has come rushing over, right, with this thing in his hand. Mate, I picked him up and threw him down these two things. Broke his legs, his arms, everything. Smacked. Threw him over the top. Down he went. Whoop! Down he went. Young Jimmy would tell you that. Young Jimmy Stewart Jr. would tell you about it. His dad's told him about that. Chucked him over the balcony, mate. They muck about right over the top. And we got our money. And Billy Hayward gave me and Jimmy $5 grand of the money. And he said, that's for you two. He said, He said, I would have got it back. He said, but I'd more have to shoot him, yeah. Like he said, and I ain't fighters like you and Jimmy, yeah. And he used to say Jimmy was involved with that big thing with the Smiths clubs when it was that shooting. And Jimmy went into one shooting, and he got the gun from the Smiths, remember? And Haywood and all that lot, and Eddie Richardson all got nicked over it. Big thing about that, the Smiths club. And anyway, so then me and Jimmy and Big Cliff Fields used to do a lot of enforcer work, and a lot, and earn lots of money together, always together earning money, yeah. Anyway, and then one day I decided my woman that I was with, she left Lewisham. The old heart was going. You do miss someone that you was with, and I was still fighting. I was having lots of fights. I was getting very, very fit. But all the time you're missing the person you was with. She's gone. You want to go back to where you come back to and find her. So what I do, go back. That caused me more problems, but in a way it didn't, because when I went back there. I met a guy that I used to work with called Bob Coleman. I used to do houses. I used to do conversion work, knock all the walls down and all that, and take the ceilings off and all them sort of things, yeah. So I used to do that, house conversion work, and he had a big company called Octopus Productions, but also used to do scenery sets, big scenery sets, I've been at Helsinki with him, doing big scenery sets out there, for the BBC and ITV and all them sort of places, yeah. And one day I said to him, look, because he knew I'd be fighting and this, that, and the other, and I said to him, look, it'd be good for us to do a promotion, do our own promotions. And he was one of these guys. He was a businessman that liked to get into business, yeah. Loved his business and loved where he could earn money. He seen me fight. He's come to quite a few of my other shows. He loved my shows. He knew that I was always fighting when I was in the foot market. He knew that I was always fighting when I worked for him before in the houses, knocking people out, chippies when I got with Larry, bricklayers when I got Larry, doing silly things. I mean, I remember one time, people would go, never in a million years could you do it. When I come out of prison, I was powerful. 2 bags of cement. Not the little bags, I'm on about the big bags of cement. 112 pound a bag. Pressing like that with one arm, pressing. I swear, man. Yeah. There's people out there, my mate Arthur Williams, old Arthur, if he ever listens to my podcast, and if he ever got on my comments, he'll tell you, I'd love to see him, my mate Danny Williams, I'm a bit all for that. But as you do as you get older, you fall out, silly things, become different people. Some people become cowards, some people become gangsters, some people become business people, good business people. And he did Arthur Williams, Johnny Williams and Danny Williams become big business people. Tony Williams can have a right fight. Tony Williams was the oldest one. Me and Tony have had quite a few fights in the ring. Tony's a lot lighter than me. Me and Tony done a big boxing venue for a film set. And I'd love to be able to get hold of the picture and find out. I mean, I've tried to get hold of Tony a few times, but someone else has got onto his station and they're texting as Tony, but it ain't Tony, see? So anyway, yeah, I'd love to get in. I'd love for me and Tony to get... Anyway, listen. There's going to be a series 2 of this, part 2, yeah? So what I want to do, this is Bang Bang Ray Hill. Please press the like button and subscribe. Thanks very much and good morning, yeah? Bye-bye. I've got to do my book now, so I've got to go, yeah? Bye-bye.